Good morning, Lemon Nation. How y'all doing? Welcome to a special edition of the Don Lemon Show. I'm Reecie Colbert filling in for our good friend Don Lemon, who is on vacation. I'm sure being very fabulous right now, much more fabulous than me at 10 a.m. in the morning. But I'm so happy that y'all are here. I see people saying, "Hey, girl, hey, y'all, how y'all doing?" I know I'm cheerful right now, but ain't nothing to cheer about with this big bullshit bill that has passed one procedural hurdle overnight marathon session. Mike Johnson twisting arms, and we have not yet, hopefully in 2027, but leader Hakeem Jeffries on the floor right now. To break it all down, I got to bring in y'all's favorites, my favorites too. Nikki and Peter. Hey y'all, how y'all
Hey,
doing?
Reecie.
Now, were
So good to
y'all up
see
late
you.
like the Republicans?
I was up later than I wanted to be, but we're perky. We're awake. We're here this morning.
Sure. Yeah, perky. Let's go with that.
Enough
We're here.
coffee,
We're
Nikki?
we're here in theory, not necessarily in practice, but here in
Filled with
theory.
dread. That's keeping me awake.
Oh my gosh, yes, filled with dread. Well, listen, I'm here to have a little bit of sunshine, to today's proceedings. There's been a lot going on. I watched, a little bit of the marathon session last night with Speaker Johnson trying to wrangle the procedural vote. So to be clear to everybody, if you're just catching up, overnight there was a procedural vote to basically say that we're going to bring the big bullshit bill, as Republicans call it, the big beautiful bill, to a full vote. So the big beautiful bill has not passed yet, but they had to get through that hurdle. If that vote failed, then they would not have been able to bring this bill in its form that's been approved by the Senate to a vote. It would have went back to committee, and then that would have given an open season for Republicans to amend it, and then it starts the whole cycle again. Now, Donald Trump is obsessed with getting this bill by 4th of July. Everybody want to go barbecue or whatever the MAGA people do, go fishing or something like that over the weekend. And so he wants to have a big thing today. Just Nikki, I'll start with you. Your instant reaction to what happened overnight.
Uh, I mean, not surprised,
Yeah.
but also not happy.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all kind of hoped that something was going to happen, that there was going to be some kind of pushback somewhere, but obviously that's not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the efforts here of Leader Jeffries, but I just don't see it making any impact, to be honest. Sorry, I'm Debbie Downer today.
Well, listen, I was one of those people that I said, I was on News Nation the other day. I said, this is gonna pass. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, the Republicans are gonna pass this. This is all they have. Like, they have not put forth anything on immigration. They don't have anything on anything else. They have put their entire lot in on this bill, and so it's going to pass. That's just gonna happen, no matter what kind of backroom deals they have to make. But Peter, Republicans have a flair for the dramatics.
Oh yeah.
We can rewind back to when Kevin McCarthy was humiliated. Was it 19, 20 votes it took for him to be the speaker?
Yes.
And so,
Yep.
like, even if Republicans know, like, we got to make this motherfucker the speaker, they still gonna hold out. And so that's what we saw last night with the vote going from four no votes up to 5, with belligerent Tom Massey and Mike Johnson standing his ground. I'm not giving him any credit, but standing his ground with the Republicans. What do you make of the Republicans just dragging this out, trying to have their moment in the sun as being one of the holdouts for that procedural vote?
It's always like this with them. You
Yeah.
know what it reminds me of, Reecie? Did any of you in the Lemon Nation watch Charlie Brown specials growing up? It's
Mhm.
Lucy in the football. It is
Yeah.
Lucy in the football every single time, whether it's a reconciliation package or Kavanaugh going to the Supreme Court. They put on this dog and pony show. They crow, like Lisa Murkowski just a couple of days ago, talking about how agonizing it is to vote
Ugh.
for this package. They talk about how it's straining on my soul. I don't know if I can do this. I can't do this. And then they always fall in line. At the end of the day, they always fall in line.
Yeah.
And to me, yes, all these hardliners, these right, who many of whom were swept into office around 2010 when everyone was concerned about the deficit, everyone was concerned about these ballooning numbers. They don't care now. This
Yeah.
package is what, going to add some 3-4-ish trillion dollars to the deficit. It's going to just be an absolute anchor on our economy in
Yeah.
the years, decades to come. And they're ultimately going to vote for it because they don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. You mentioned about it adding to the deficit. You know, Democrats haven't known to be deficit hawks. Now, granted, the deficit has gone down under Democratic presidents, but they don't necessarily run on we're gonna, cut costs and cut spending and lower the deficit. But it's crazy at the same time where Donald Trump is trying to bully and strong arm the Fed chair, who was supposed to be independent from the political leanings of the president, into lowering interest rates. The deficit ballooning is making it more expensive for the government to borrow money. So that's where we see the treasury yields going up. We see the price of the bonds going up. And so what that means is that if it's more expensive for the federal government to borrow, then it's more expensive for all of us to borrow. So it's going to be hard for for Jerome Powell, even if he were to lower the rates temporarily so that he can give Donald Trump a win. Ultimately, this bill is going to cost everybody more in the form of higher interest rates. But let's bring in one of our good friends, friend of the Don Lemon Show. Y'all know and love him. He is New York Times bestseller, Clay Cane. He has a new book that you can pre-order now called Burn Down Master's House. Hey, Clay Cane, how you doing?
What's up, brother?
Back again.
Yes.
Happy to be here. Oh my gosh. You know what I feel like? I feel like Billie Holiday. Good morning, heartache. Here we go again.
Oh, Lord.
You wake up. It's a new disaster. It's a new train wreck. And this is really personal for me because I was born and raised on welfare. I was born and raised on entitlements. That's the language they want to call it. And I was thinking of when I was a kid, the Reagan administration did ferocious cuts to quote unquote entitlements. I believe it was 18%. It would cause rural hospitals to shut down. It would increase poverty. It would increase child poverty by 2%. And that was in Reagan's first term. And you know what happened? He got reelected. My question is, as I see all these pundits babble, because we know this bill is going to go through, as you were saying, Nikki, what is going to be the repercussions of it? I mean, because Republicans, I don't like Trump at all, but let me just be clear. His policies are very similar to Ronald Reagan, to George H.W. Bush, to W. His racism and, the way that he acts and, all that stuff is more ugly. But this is what they've been doing for a very, very long time. So that's why I push back on this idea that people are voting on their kitchen table. They're voting against their kitchen table. And we're seeing it right now. And I want to give you a brief little quote from Kamala Harris. She said this in July of 2024. She said, 59 years ago, Medicare and Medicaid were signed into law. Trump's Project 2025 plans to cut Medicare and roll back our progress on Medicaid. And y'all voted for this.
Yeah. Well, Clay, I share your cynicism, skepticism that this will have political impacts. However, I know Clay, y'all know Clay as much as I do, but Clay says the polls.
The polls are tools of the devil. Tools of the devil.
But I am not a poll truther, okay? And so there is a lot of polling on this big bullshit bill, and it is way unpopular. And it is so unpopular, even with people not knowing a whole lot about it. The Washington Post has it 19 points underwater. Pew Research has it 20 points underwater. Fox News has it 21 points underwater. And Quinnipiac has it 26 points underwater. This is an unpopular piece of legislation just off of the little bit that people know. But to your point, Clay, is that unpopularity going to hold and translate into losses? Now, we did see when Donald Trump was in office in 2007 and the last term, they experienced massive losses in the House because of their attempts to repeal Obamacare. That was unpopular. Democrats ran on healthcare. I don't know why they didn't run more on healthcare in this past election when healthcare has always been a winning issue for Democrats. But I think if Democrats can really drive the message home of these changes and not let Republicans spin this as they call it, illegals or able-bodied Americans having to get up off their ass and work for healthcare, then I think they can do it. But that's the question of whether they can do it. Nikki,
also,
our resident pessimist today, what do you think? Can the Democrats pull it off? We see Leader Jeffries out there. He's been filibustering for the past, well, it's not filibustering in the House, but he's been delaying for the past 5 hours now, trying to raise awareness on this. What do you think? Can the Democrats, can they pull it through?
I don't think so. I just don't. I mean, I want to not be so pessimistic. I don't like this, but I've just seen it. I haven't, every time that we have this moment where we're like, hey, but there's some pushback here. Hey, but they're going to realize this here. They don't. And you're right. This is something that I feel like this is going to hurt a lot of Trump supporters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I've just seen people I've seen so many people go through these mental gymnastics to twist it and be like, yes, I'm hurting, but it is Biden's fault. Or they'll pick some Democrat, Hillary, they'll find someone, they'll blame them. I've seen too many people twist things in their minds to accept the things that are happening to them. And what I'm afraid of is that same thing's going to happen again. Like, this is going to pass. Let's be honest. It is.
Yeah, it is.
I'm seeing Rose in the comments raise something. She says, Jeffries, is wasting his time. And I wanted to pose that question to all of you. This marathon speech that he's delivering in the House floor, he got up at 4:53 this morning to start addressing his colleagues. Is it noble? Is it worthwhile? Because he will ultimately be able to delay this reconciliation package's passage by, say, 5-6 hours. He gives 5 or 6 more hours for Democrats to go on cable news, to go on podcasts, to spread the word about how ugly and terrible this bill is. Is that worthwhile, or ultimately are we just delaying the inevitable and just wasting time? I don't know. I'm inclined to think that this is important and that this is a good act by Jeffries, but I'm not sure. What do you all think?
Clay, I'll let you take that first.
I think I guess it's good to have it for the record, so that he stood up. It's maybe more so for the historical record, knowing that there isn't much that we could do. Knowing that, they did talk about what they would want to do for to Medicaid and entitlements for months and months and months. So I really put this on the American people. And to the point of what the polls are saying, I think for me, it goes beyond the midterms, or it goes beyond the national election. How will this change Mississippi? How will this change Louisiana? How will this change Alabama? How will this change the poorest states in the union that depend on these services? There are people who will vote against their children being able to eat. There are people who will vote against rural hospitals being shut down. There are people who will vote against children having access to school lunch, right?
Yeah.
We are in this cruelty by law, voting by law, voting misery by law. So while I'm happy to see Leader Jeffries do that, it's for the record. But sadly, there are going to be casualties. There are going to be losses. And I just want to see not a small change in the House or the Senate, but I want to see in places that will be the most impacted, will you continue to support this misery by law? So Leader Jeffries, I like it, but this is all that he could do. I guess one could say at least he's doing something.
No, I think something is better than nothing, to be very clear. I mean, this is what Democrats have the capacity to do. They don't have the votes to stop it. they, what are they going to do? Chain themselves to the gavel or something? No, but I think, and I've seen a lot of comments saying, at least it shows he gives a shit, at least, for symbolism. I think that Democrats tend to, not play the theatrics. They don't play the performative aspect as well as Republicans do, And so I think it's important because people are, instead of this waking up being a good news story for Trump and Trump scored a win, now the attention is on Jeffries and what this bill does. But let's bring in New York Times congressional reporter Michael Gold, who has been pulling an all-nighter on this bill. Michael, welcome to the Don Lemon Show. Tell us what's happening and what you observed overnight.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little incoherent, but I'll do my best. So basically what we saw was all progress on the floor stalled for the better part of 12 hours, while Speaker Johnson and the White House and a number of Johnson's top allies tried to get the votes they needed because they don't want to bring this bill to a vote without having the votes to pass it, right? So
yeah.
We saw that process wrap itself up in theory around like 2 a.m. and then in practice around 3:30 a.m. Part of the problem, I just think this is a great detail, but to show you how important every vote is, part of the problem was that Scott Perry, who's a member of the House Freedom Caucus, he actually went home at one point. According to Johnson, he was on a family trip because, remember, the House was supposed to be off this week, as was I. And he was on a family trip, drove in for a morning vote, and then went home to get a change of clothes. He lives about 2 hours away. And they decided they couldn't do the final vote without him. That's how close the margins were. So for the last 7 hours, I think, we've been in debate on the bill. And for the last 5 hours, 5.5 now, I think we just crossed the line. Leader Jeffries has been on the floor making his case for this bill, essentially delaying the vote even further. I want to be really clear here. They will vote at some point, and it's all but certain that this bill will pass just based on the procedural votes we have today. But he's making a very forceful, energetic case against the bill. I think the most powerful thing happened when most people were asleep around 5 a.m. He started reading testimonials from people who said that they were going to be hurt if this bill passed by Medicaid cuts. And he had stories from districts around the country. It was one of the most forceful cases that I think Democrats have made against the bill. This has been a signature argument. Looks to me like he's going to keep speaking. I stepped out of the chamber to talk to you all, but I think he's going to keep going. The rumor from members of Congress and their staffs is that he's going to try to break a record for a House speech. The technicals of this are really not important, but essentially if he speaks for more than 8 hours and 32 minutes, he'll have broken a record set by Kevin McCarthy 4 years ago. Okay. So I think that's where we're at. I do think the bill is most likely going to pass, though. If we've never seen anything over the last few years with the Republicans, anything could change at any moment.
Yeah.
Michael, I understand that holdouts have been shuttled to the White House to talk with Trump. He's leaned on them pretty aggressively. Do we have any clarity on what types of promises, on what types of incentives or threats the president may have made to get Republicans on board?
We're still reporting that out. I think you saw Ralph Norman from South Carolina say that he had gotten assurances from the president that there would be some action that would go further on clean energy tax credits than the Senate bill. So we know that the House bill did a lot to phase out and roll back the clean energy tax credits that were passed under President Biden. The Senate bill sort of lightened the load on that a little bit. The provisions were more favorable to those tax credits to lawmakers who wanted to see them preserved. And Norman says that he got some promises from the president that, there would be ways to address that. I want to say the bill's not changing from the Senate version. We know that now. So anything that was extracted would have been promises through executive actions. And Steve Scalise, who's the number 2 House Republican, said that there's discussion about doing another budget package, essentially another reconciliation bill. I have a feeling that there were some conversations about what might go into that. I think we're still going to have to kind of figure out what's going on there. But I also want to add one other important dimension to this. A lot of the holdouts are people who have been known throughout the year to hold out and then cave for whatever reason. And I'm not suggesting that we should not have taken their holdout seriously, because every vote counts. It's entirely possible if they didn't hear what they wanted to, we would still be here this weekend. We may still be here this weekend. But I think there's a lot of people who felt like they needed to have their objections heard or registered in some way. And I don't know that all of them necessarily wanted concrete promises.
Yeah. Now, the strategy to get this passed was really to change some no votes to present votes, right? Who was the last holdout? Who was the person who got their moment of glory of allowing this bill to go through? Or the amendment, sorry, the amendment.
Well, that's a good question. I actually don't know, because what happened was everything was stalled and we were all just kind of hanging out. And then there was a sense that everyone was going to come to the floor. You had this really surreal moment where the speaker's taking a photo of this group of holdouts, Victoria Spartz and Thomas Massie, and all these people who had basically complicated the last 24 hours for him. He takes a photo of them in the back of the chamber, and then they all kind of start to vote. And it happened so fast that we weren't really clear like who was first and who was last. And I think Thomas Massie might have been the first. The only person who didn't switch their vote was Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania. We actually don't know a lot about why he voted against the bill. I am looking for him. I don't know where he is. My guess is sleeping in his office somewhere, in which case, like, goals, same energy here. But yeah, basically we had, before this 3:30 shift, I think we had 5 Republicans voting against the bill and 8 who had not weighed in, right? So almost all of that group of people shifted except for Fitzpatrick.
Before you go, because I know you're short on time, I want to get a sense of the Democratic side. So we know that Leader Jeffries is up there. You said there's reports there's rumors that he's trying to break a record. What's the tone and tenor of the rest of the caucus? They are also there on this marathon session, essentially hostage and away from their other plans. What do you what's your feeling on how they're dealing with all this?
Yeah, I think there's a few interesting things happening. And actually, if we can go back in time, some 26 hours, God, there's a thing I just said. There was a moment after the first of the many procedural votes we did today where House Democrats went outside on the steps that lead up to the House of Representatives, and they were basically unified en masse against this bill. I mean, they were all standing there. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them were standing there. They were talking about the bill. You had Jeffries, you had Catherine Clark, you had a bunch of people talking about the bill, and they were all standing there. And the idea, I think, was they were really presenting this united opposition in the face of a Republican conference that has been very divided, both in the House and Senate throughout this entire process. Every time they've needed to do this, especially in the House, they've had to muscle this over the line. Mm-hmm. And so I think the message here is essentially we are united in opposition against this bill. We all have the same objections against this bill. And the other thing that's been really interesting is they're very specifically singling out moderate members who at various points said, I can't vote for this bill if it does this to Medicaid. I can't vote for this bill if it does this to the IRA clean energy credits. I can't do this if we're going to make these cuts to SNAP. The House Democrats have really gone after Senator Lisa Murkowski for caving on the bill and then essentially saying, caving's the wrong word, but she negotiated, she got some favorable credits, and then she later, minutes after the vote, told reporters, I don't like this bill, I want the House to change it. And they said, well, you voted for it.
Right.
What you want us to do. But I think they're really trying to single out some of these people who they think might be politically vulnerable. This whole process has really set up a line of attacks for the midterms that I think we're going to see going forward.
Yes. Well, thank you, Michael, for your reporting, your tireless reporting. Get some rest or get back out there and find out what's going on. And then you can come back later and tell us what the tea is for the rest of the day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
So before we get off this topic, I just want to give a highlights lowlights really about what the bill does. 12 to 17 million Americans will lose health care, whether that's through Medicaid or through the changes that they made that made it, that's going to make it more difficult and more expensive to get the ACA coverage, Obamacare. It will lead to approximately 30% higher electricity costs. So a lot of the discussion has been around Medicaid, around SNAP, and maybe some people don't care about people struggling who ain't got no money, who need, a little extra help. But even if you think that you weren't going to be impacted by those specific ones, and we could talk about the downstream impacts of cutting these programs, everybody is going to touch this. We have up right now what the electricity price changes will be. A lot of those changes, those big numbers, are happening in MAGA states. Okay. Now, I know everybody in there ain't MAGA, but those are red states. All right. And then we also have millions of manufacturing and construction jobs destroyed. So at a time where Donald Trump has waged a trade war on the entire world, where he still has not negotiated any new tariff deals, he is actually all under the guise, mind you, of making more stuff in America. This bill is going to gut millions of jobs, particularly around the clean energy sector. It's the biggest ever cut in food assistance for families, kids, and veterans. Because I know people, the whole supposedly Republicans care about the troops, support the troops, but they are cutting food assistance for veterans. Now, veterans shouldn't need food assistance, but that's another story for another day. This is the biggest ever transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. So 80% there, if you look at the incomes in percentiles, everybody in the 80th percentile or below, they're going to see their income go down. Now, I've seen a different graph in which now and then in the 80th to 90th, they only get a couple hundred extra bucks. And then the 90th percent goes up because this bill does more. When you talk about household income, it's not just your tax liability. It's all of the services that are going to change as a result of this bill. And then who has to pick up the slack from those services? It comes out of our pockets. It adds $4 trillion to the deficit, and it's giving a massive cut to millionaires and billionaires. So there is something. Oh, another thing, student loan payments are being massively overhauled in this bill to make it more expensive than what the Biden-Harris administration was trying to do to make it massively cheaper. So there is something to hate for every person in this bill, unless you are rich like Jeff Bezos getting married in Venice. Yeah, we all gonna have to come out of the pocket as a result of this. So that sucks. But let's move on to another story. I don't like oh wait, before we should we go to Alligator Alcatraz next, or should we do a Diddy update? What do you guys think? What do we have coming up next? A quick
Whatever
Diddy
y'all
update.
are feeling.
Let's just do a quick Diddy update. So I know that yesterday at the end of Don Lemon's show, the news broke that Diddy's bond was denied. And so that was something that was expected, given the fact that the charges he was convicted of require that you stay incarcerated. You can't get out on bail for that. So, but one of the things that has bothered me, and beyond just I can say this to you, Clay, the minstrelsy of the baby oil antics.
Lord have mercy.
Oh, Lord. And the celebration it's bothered me to see people, Funkmaster Flex is a person who are writing these messages and tagging Cassie, who, by the way, just had a baby during this trial. So she is home with her newborn baby. She has other children as well. And they are tagging her and saying that I never saw you as a victim, and blaming Cassie for the fact that Diddy was tried, which, by the way, she does play a role in it, because when that horrific video of her being beat by him came out, that's what kind of precipitated the federal attention to it. But can y'all leave this lady alone? Like, this is not something to celebrate. At the end of the day, he's still convicted of charges. At the end of the day, he was not charged for conduct that is heinous, so he couldn't have been convicted of that anyway. So I just don't understand why there's this need. Well, I do understand it, but I'm really disgusted by this need to personally attack Cassie over this when she was denied some element of justice.
I think we oftentimes attack women because we don't want to deal with the trifling men in our society.
Yeah,
I can recall with Aaliyah, the late great Aaliyah. Folks were blaming her. I'm sure you saw that, Reecie.
Yeah.
For the relationship with R. Kelly. She was a child, right? You can even find people saying, why did Tina Turner stay so long with Ike Turner? And that horrible imagery of Rihanna being assaulted. People said, oh, well, Rihanna, she was kind of spicy. She would run her mouth. We don't want to admit that it's not the victim's problem. It's how we condone this behavior from men. Yeah. How we celebrate sometimes this behavior from men. So it's disgusting. And we're in this strange place where 5 years ago, there was a sense, with Me Too, that things were changing and evolving. And now the pendulum is just going so drastic to the other side
Yeah.
that there are people who are, mind you, he was found guilty on 2 counts.
Right.
Be clear.
Yeah.
And we all saw the video.
We saw this horrible video. So we're in this. You see a woman getting beat up. You see imagery of Rihanna. You see, Tina Turner's story, and you still find a way to blame her. Like, my God, we got some serious soul searching to do.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, this says United States.
Right.
Sean Combs. It doesn't say Cassie Ventura. It says United States. Victims cannot charge you. It's up to the state or the federal government or, local government to charge the perpetrators. And so he was not tried by Cassie. He was tried by the United States of America and found guilty of 2 counts related to transportation to engage in prostitution. And so, there's been a lot of reporting about how much time he's facing. I've seen reports where the prosecution plans to ask for in the ballpark of 4 to 5 years, but Diddy's attorneys are sending out letters to suggest that they think he'll get closer to 2 years. And so this can go anywhere. It can go up to 20 years, which is not likely given the fact that he does not have a criminal record prior to this. But that's something that we shall see. But anything less than a life sentence is probably a win for Diddy, But what's crazy, Nikki, is we're already hearing people say, will Donald Trump pardon Diddy?
Yeah.
For these charges. What is that? That says a lot about Donald Trump, that immediately the expectation is, well, Trump will probably pardon him. They're like 2 peas in a pod in some degrees.
Oh, a sexual predator? I'm sure our sexual predator in chief will step in and pardon them. It's disheartening and disgusting. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked. So.
Yeah. Well, he has had a habit of pardoning Black rappers, thinking that he's going to curry favor with the Black community. So this will be his biggest one yet. But I would just say, I think those of us who have sense don't look at this as anything to celebrate. Now, some people look at it as, well, they're trying to bring a Black man down and regardless of whether, obviously you can say he was overcharged because he was acquitted of the other charges. Like, whether you believe that he believes to be incarcerated or not, the reality is he's being held accountable for now. We'll see what Trump does eventually for his crimes, his now convicted crimes.
Can I ask a question to you, Reecie? But do you think this will impact his career, his business, his music? He's a mogul. Will there be any impact? That's the real sentence I want to see. Will people not support him after him being convicted of at least 2 of these counts?
It's hard for me to call because people have short memories and there are people who will support. I mean, look at the kind of support that you see people like Tory Lanez get, who was a nobody. Like, Tory Lanez was a nobody. Maybe he had Demon Time, where he had some IG lives that people enjoyed and a couple of songs. And yet he's still a vessel through which, people torment Megan Thee Stallion. And these are not like piddly people. I mean, you have big rappers and big people who are still saying, you even have a Republican congresswoman who's a piece of shit, who is saying like, free Tory. So I think that certainly there will be a group of people who will support him, and they will publicly support him and loudly support him, because people love to latch on to something that empowers abuse towards women, that says that you can do this and not pay a consequence, or if you did pay a consequence, you're persecuted. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if y'all hear it's all about the Benjamins in the club, y'all not going to get up? I'm gonna be looking at y'all.
I don't do all about the Benjamins. Now, now he's in a lot of Faith songs. So if I hear you can dance, clap your hands. Like, I'm not canceling 112. I'm not canceling Faith, but I'm not canceling Toto.
You're not canceling Gina Thompson.
No, I'm not. I'm not canceling Lil' Kim. Okay, but I'm not going to listen to Diddy. Just the Diddy song. I can cancel just Diddy songs, but I can't cancel the whole Bad Boy 20-year collection. Now y'all can cancel me for saying that, but
you want to rumble with the B, huh?
throw a hex on the whole family. Like that's staying, because why is Lil Kim in it? But yeah,
I'm with you.
But I'm gonna be like this. I'm gonna be dancing like this. Okay, I'm not gonna be proud. I'm not gonna be proud. So yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to talk about Alligator Alcatraz, which I hate that they have this catchy name for it. I hate that. Because Clay, doesn't the whole like attachment to alligators have a racist connotation to it? Clay, history with Clay, tell people about alligator bait and that history around that.
Yeah, it really disturbed me when I read it, and a lot of folks may not know, but during Jim Crow, there was this trope that Black children and Black babies were being fed to alligators, and there's actually like imagery around it, media around it, propaganda around it, and this idea that Black people were alligator bait, that they were from the swamps and they were dirty and filthy, and they can be fed to alligators. So it was some racist fantasy that Black people belonged in the wild. So for me, as somebody who wrote a book on history and all that stuff, it really disturbed me. And then at one point, Trump, what did he say here? He talked about, we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator if they escape prison. Don't run in a straight line. Like, this is creepy as hell. And I just feel like they're going into the racist archives. And I believe that it's intentional. I was just called a spook on air on Sirius XM earlier this week. A spook. You know what I mean? Like, they're going into these racist archives. It's a little bit more veiled in some points, but that's immediately what I thought about. So I guess in Alligator Alcatraz mind, these people are disposable and they can be devoured.
Yeah.
Really disturbing.
Well, see, the imagery of it is the point. It's dehumanizing, and it reminds me. Now, I don't want to put it on that level because I don't think you can really reach that level of depravity and heinousness. But you know, when they used to have like the lynching parties, and you see the images of people just standing around while a person is being lynched, and the fact that was normalized for them, like they weren't looking like there was no shame, this was entertainment. And that's how this whole Alligator Alcatraz thing is being covered. Like, this is like some sort of like Dog the Bounty Hunter fucking episode where it's entertaining to see people locked up in cages. Like, they're trying to build their own sea cot in the middle of the swamps of Florida. This is so disgusting, but there is an audience that is loving this. Like, this is still something that Donald Trump, he has lost some ground in terms of his polling on immigration, but there is no real pushback, especially not on the MAGA side, for how disgusting all of this is.
But we've seen that with a lot of things with MAGA. The cruelty is the point.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the point of it. They like that. They want that. They want it to be more cruel. It's disgusting, but I'm not shocked. It's every day. If they did something that wasn't horrific, then I'd be more shocked.
That's true. If we just had a regular day.
I don't know if you guys caught this. I don't know if you had the misfortune of having it trickle into your algorithms, but Benny Johnson, he's some wannabe influencer online. He showcased that Alligator Alcatraz has official merch.
What?
They have merchandise. They have official hats and I think t-shirts that they're selling. It's MAGA Disneyland. It's not just that they are setting up in effect a human petting zoo.
Yeah.
Right? They want MAGA to come down and look at all the Black and brown people behind bars in close confined quarters surrounded by reptiles. Nikki, you had referenced this yesterday. We talk about this from time to time. It is the most abhorrent, the most vicious and depraved instance of so-called vice signaling that I've ever seen. You know, back in the 2010s, a lot of folks talked about virtue signaling. the phenomenon of like folks sometimes in eye-rolly fashion trying to make very clear how they're a good person. And MAGA's response to that has been, okay, forget virtue signaling. We're going to embrace vice signaling. We're going to broadcast. We're going to signpost just how fucking evil we are. And the more evil that you can be, the more MAGA eats it up. Like, imagine an Alligator Alcatraz hat and you're gleeful. You have a shit-eating grin while you wear it. I've never seen anything like this. Never.
That's my point. The cruelty is the point. That's what they want. That's what this is.
And the thing is, they have this. They're trying to perpetuate. Oh, did you guys lose my video?
We can hear you, Reecie.
We can hear you, but you're frozen.
Okay. Well, what I was saying. Sorry, my video is frozen. What I was saying is that they're trying to perpetuate this idea that these are all criminals. When we're blocking violent criminals up. The data is showing that only 8% of the people in detention now have a violent criminal record. Now, there are more people who have a criminal record, but it's like DUIs. I'm not saying that's not a big deal, but it's minor stuff. So they're not. This isn't like, oh, we're torturing criminals. They're getting people off from Home Depot, from restaurants, from their immigration appointments, their naturalization appointments, and they're locking them up in these heinous conditions.
That's a good point. I mean, like we were just talking about it the other day that was it 93% of people taken by ICE have no violent convictions. These are not violent criminals. That's not what we're looking at. And they're celebrating this horrific cruelty against people who have done nothing more than just try to have a decent life.
And I think what shakes me up is that how many people are going to wrongfully get caught up in this? I mean, Trump has already been hinting to, that there's people who commit crimes over here. I mean, outside of himself, of course, that, should be shipped over here and should be in a detention center. He's talked about homegrown. I mean, I think this is a larger plan to really monopolize this criminal justice system to be as profitable as possible. I mean, there was a video earlier, him talking about calling farmers owners.
Yeah.
Owners, using the language as owners. And I'm so happy you brought up that hat. I didn't even see the merchandise. I mean, back to that phrase, alligator bait. They would sell postcards during the Jim Crow South of little black children. You can look it up online next to alligators. I mean, has always been a profit of selling hateful imagery. So we have an Alcatraz hat, and then the man selling perfume. Isn't there a violation somewhere here? Is there a hat jack? Is there something like, how can you imagine if Obama would have been selling perfume and I could have a son that looks like Trayvon Martin shirts. I mean, can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. Well, before we go, because we're running out of time, we have to play this clip of Donald Trump suggesting, do you guys have the clip of Donald Trump suggesting farmer responsibility for the folks at Alligator Alcatraz? Let's take a listen.
We have a lot of cases where ICE will go into a farm, and these are guys working there for 10, 15 years, no problem. The farmers know them. We're going to put, it's called farmer responsibility or owner responsibility, where they're going to be largely responsible for these people. And they know these people. They've worked on the farms for 15 years, and all of a sudden so I have a great, Ron does, Christie does, we have a great feeling for the farmer and for others in the same position. And we're going to give them responsibility for people. And we're going to have a system of signing them up so they don't have to go. They can be here legally. They can pay taxes and everything else. They're not getting citizenship, but they get other things. And the farmers need them to do the work. Without those people, you're not going to be able to run your farm.
That's sharecropping.
Yeah, we've seen this. Where have we seen this before?
Call me crazy. That just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Owner
responsibility. They can't be citizens, but they can work here
and pay taxes.
And have Now the white is silent, but let's be honest. They're talking about the white rural farmers. They can have owner responsibility over migrants. They
That
can
is a
work the farm.
sharecropping contract. That's literally what sharecropping contracts used to look like. That's really, really, and here's the truth. This country has never been able to figure out how to survive without free labor or cheap labor. That's the underlying conversation around immigration. That how can we properly pay people who are working on fields? We can't and we won't. We actually can, but we won't do it. So that's always the underlying issue. That's why, sadly, our market force requires immigrant labor, but nobody wants to talk about that. Then we blame them. And so we'll just find some prisoners if the immigrants run out, and we'll just have you be a part, you'll just be owned by somebody. You'll be owned.
But can I just point out, we're already getting cheap labor from immigrants. But this
Absolutely.
is now saying that, like, now you are tethered to an owner who's gonna have responsibility for you. Now, what could possibly go, if we look back at our history, what could possibly go wrong with a business person or farm owner having ownership and responsibility for farm labor?
Everything. Or it might go all right for them. It might just be, hey, this is what we've been trying to get back to. Make America great again. 19th century. Let's praise Confederates. Let's make it all this is their version of making it great again.
If I can meld our A block and now our C block, our top story and our conversation now, one thing that folks are not talking about in Trump's big busted bill is the $170 billion that's going to ICE. Specifically, $45 billion of which is going to build specifically ICE detainment facilities, building prisons.
Yeah.
Now, I raised that because $170 billion, it's a lot of money. Do you want to know how many of those dollars are going to hire judges that could address the immigration backlog in this country? Zero. Not a penny. And so what does that mean practically speaking? It means Trump is effectively building a secret police force, more than hundreds, thousands if not tens of thousands of masked thugs will be roaming the country, scooping up college students who write spicy op-eds and throwing them into makeshift prisons like Alligator Alcatraz and then forcing them into labor. It is, as I say it, I don't even believe it. If you wrote it in a screenplay, you'd be laughed out of a room. It's so fucking dystopian and scary.
It was never about doing it legal. They did not care about the legality of any of this. They never did.
Yeah.
Can I just add one quick thing? That's such an important point as far as the screenplay. Exactly a year ago, the Democratic Party was basically waging a war on Joe Biden for 3 weeks. Waging a war. They should have been focused on somewhere else versus Joe Biden. They made it pretty much impossible. And I'm talking about George Clooney and his op-eds. I'm talking about Rob Reiner. I'm talking about Julian Castro. This time, a year ago, there was this attack on Joe Biden, which basically made it impossible for Kamala Harris to win. And all the things the Biden-Harris administration, later a potentially Harris-Walz administration, they're happening a year later. That's what pisses me off. Really, we didn't have to be here. And 3 weeks of tearing him apart, there was no way to come back from that. And now look where we are.
Yeah, every single thing that we're experiencing right now was preventable. It was avoidable. We were warned about it. They said they were going to do this.
Well,
there was no bait and switch. Yes, now I will say that Donald Trump claimed that he wasn't going to cut Medicaid. That was bullshit. Everybody knew it because if you read Project 2025, if you listen to all the other people running, that was the plan. And so the question is, as Joe Madison, the late great Joe Madison, would say, what are you gonna do about it? because Mitch McConnell says that people will just get over it. JD Vance, who cast a tie-breaking vote in the Senate, said that, oh, well, the things that are going to happen are immaterial. So lives, 17 million people are going to lose healthcare, immaterial. Millions of people losing food stamps, including veterans and kids, immaterial. Your utility bills going up, immaterial. Every single aspect of way that this is going to impact your life is immaterial. Of course it is to a person like to a person like Donald Trump, a person like JD Vance, all of these Republicans, it's immaterial to them. And the worst thing that this country can do is prove them right, is prove that you can beat down the most vulnerable, you can beat down those in need, and walk away scot-free. Keep your job, get your tax cuts like you wanted to, and not pay a price. Now, historically, they've gotten away with a lot because people still tend to blame the Democrats. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what's going to happen with this. Hopefully people will start to come to their senses. The time to come to your senses really would have been in November, but should we have elections again? Let's just not have a short memory. Let's not fall for whatever little ploys happen. Let's remember this day come November 2026, please. And especially remember it in 2028 as well, when if Donald Trump doesn't call himself run again, JD Vance will try to be the nominee for the Republican Party. So, because this is a day that should live in infamy in terms of politics, but maybe it won't because so much other shit is going on.
I feel like that it's people have a memory and a span to remember things of about 24 hours.
We're goldfish people. We are a people of goldfish. We're a society of goldfish.
Yes. Yeah. Every time I sit there and I think, oh, this is going to do it. People are going to see now. This is horrible. Within 2 days, it's gone. Nobody remembers it. And was it Steve Bannon who said that? The point is to flood the zone. Like that's what they do. Yep. They do it so you're overwhelmed and you just can't possibly take it all in. And that's how they get everything passed. But oh God, people, you gotta remember, please, just keep bringing it up. I would be
remiss if I didn't mention. I meant to mention this earlier. Millions of people, to Clay's point about how much is going to ICE. First of all, for all these people who have a hard on for immigrants, that's not free, because what you're doing is you're taking tax-paying Americans. They may not be citizens, but they pay taxes, whether they pay sales taxes, whether they pay property taxes, if they own homes or own property, if they pay into Social Security or Medicaid or Medicare or whatever. You're taking productive members of society and you are turning them into people that as taxpayers, we are paying to house, mind you, in deplorable conditions. And so we are taking out of our economy, we're taking out of our communities and putting them into a place in which now we are paying out of taxpayer dollars, and those taxpayer dollars are coming out of areas that actually benefit this country or the world. The thing I did not want to go without mentioning is that estimates say that 14 million people will die as a result of the cuts to USAID.
Jesus.
14 million people will die. That's not even to talk about, the fact that a lot of the USAID funding actually goes to American businesses. But 14 million people will die who don't have to because of the cruelty of this administration. So this country, Donald Trump's America, MAGA America, the Republican America that we live in, has made the choice that we're going to spend billions of dollars capturing and holding captive people that don't need to be held in captivity, while killing off millions of people around the world because of the cruelty of our government. It's unnecessary. But this is what this country represents right now. Not just represents in a symbolic way, but what this country is actually doing to the world, the kind of carnage. And so we have to find our humanity at some point, our humanity towards the American people and our humanity towards the global community. Because we're gonna have to pay a price for this at some point. And I don't know what that price is, and I ain't wishing it on us, because I don't get to be exempt. I voted for Kamala Harris. I don't want nothing bad to happen to me sticker. But I think we just have to really recognize the gravity of what's happening right now. So I hate to end on a sour note, but I got to keep it real.
Well, it's the
So
Don
Clay,
Lemon Show.
before we go, tell folks one last time about Burning Down Master's House and how they can get your book.
Burn Down Master's House. It's a novel. It's a book about resistance, opposition, about real people in slavery who fought back, historical fiction. It's a story about slavery that you've never heard before. You can pre-order it now wherever books are sold. And all that being said, I still have faith in us. I look back to what folks like Thaddeus Stevens and Charles Sumner and Frederick Douglass and Ida B. Wells did. Our answer is in our history. So I still feel like we're going to be all right. So you might want to unplug and plug back in at 5 o'clock. And then go get a margarita and just, hey, raise your glass. You still got to find your escapism.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of escapism, I have games. Let me pull it out. My Am I Tripping game? Clay has it too. I have to send you guys a copy, Nikki and Peter. It is a fun escapism game. It's a card game in which there are scenarios that, you debate, am I tripping? It's like the black, am I the asshole, basically. You know what I mean? So, and one side has trivia scenarios where it's movie, TV, music scenarios where it's a scenario from that and you have to guess who the person is for points. And then the other side is just a regular conversation game. Tons and tons of fun. Thank you, Cam. Thank you to all my friends who are in there saying that they got the game. It's a lot of fun. So yes. Any parting words, Nikki? And you can get it at amitrippinggame.com. That's where you can get my game. And I have another game too.
I just threw it up in the chat. So if you guys, give me 1 second. It will be up in the chat. Check the link and you guys can order it online.
Love that.
Somebody said, what's the name of the book again? Clay's book that is available for pre-order is Burn Down Master's House, or you can get his book, The Grift, New York Times best-selling book. That's already out. Nikki, any parting words?
I guess I just have to play the Dawn role. Everyone, make sure you make sure you subscribe. We have, if you'd like to, you can become a member. We have affordable membership options where you can have your comments highlighted. You can also, if at our Lemon Heads and our Lemon Legends, they get to have some special streams with us. And Don, when he's here, he will be back. But he is getting some much deserved time off. And we are so lucky to have Reecie and Clay with us here today. We love you all, Lemon Nation.
We love you so much, Lemon Nation. Clay and I get to be together all the time. We'll be on SiriusXM Urban View at noon.
In an hour.
But
what are you guys going to talk about? There's nothing going on.
I know, slow news day. But as much as we get to kick it with each other, we have our tour beyond the mic. We love, outside of SiriusXM Urban View, we love Lemon Nation. Lemon Nation is off the chain. Lemon Heads, Lemon Legends, everybody in Lemon Nation. We love you so much. Thank you for spending the morning with us in Don's absence and for not being like, well, Don ain't here, so I ain't got to lie. We still here. And we will see you back again at 5 p.m. Bye, y'all.
Turn the TV off.
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.